My dad said I wasn't invited to the family dinner and called me a burden. There, nobody wants to see you, he chuckled. Really don't spoil the mood, my brother added. I simply grinned and slipped out of the family group chat. I started by canceling the card that was connected to their mortgage. The business account was then locked by me. Everybody shared. They didn't anticipate what I did next, though. After everything I did for them, including helping them pay off the last portion of the mortgage they promised to manage, funding their business aspirations, and saving them from debt, I was told not to attend the dinner, not just any meal. It was for Rachel, my sister, who had recently returned from 2 years of working overseas in Europe. Everyone would be present. My brother Nathan, my parents, and the cousins. Uncles, everybody but me. Not even a phone call was made. Just a note in the chat room for the family group. Oliver, hello. On Sunday, don't come. There nobody wants to see you. At first I thought it was an error. Perhaps he intended to send that to a different person. Nathan then added his voice. Don't ruin the mood, please. I realized then that it was real. My own dad had declared me unwelcome. My brother supported it as if it were inconsequential. I remained silent. I didn't even respond to the text. Quietly, I exited the group chat. After that, I canceled the card that was used to pay their mortgage and opened the banking app. I owned it. When Dad was having trouble and was too proud to ask for assistance, I had set it up, acting as though nothing was wrong while the bills mounted. I then put the joint business account on hold. The LLC had been founded by me. The first deals came from me. As if I were merely the IT guy behind the scenes, they dared to put their names on it. Rachel was the part that hurt the most. She remained silent. Not even a check-in message. She and Nathan had always been close, and it didn't seem like anything had changed after 2 years in Europe. She returned with gifts and stories for everyone. Not for me, though. I didn't immediately tell Leeling. I was unable to eat the dinner that was scheduled for us. She didn't ask any questions when I eventually told her. Just do what you have to do, she said. So I did. I received 5 voicemails from my father, 1 from my mother, 2 from cousins, and an email from Cole by the following morning. What you did was unacceptable, Oliver. It wasn't about you at that dinner. It had to do with family. You are behaving like a kid. After reading it twice, I erased it. Family. Coming from them, that word had lost much of its meaning. I then received the follow-up. We were kidding. Avoid overreacting. I responded at that point. Remove me from the family company, I'm finished. I made a copy of our attorney. No more acting like you're someone you're not. The consequences were immediate. Calls from family members I hadn't seen in a long time. Mom told me I was overreacting while sobbing on the phone. My father said I had betrayed them. I won't repeat the things Nathan texts me. And they continued to blame Lily throughout it all. Before she came along, you were a good son, according to my mother. As though my identity was erased by being with someone who was born in a different nation. She had always been regarded as an outsider by them. Made remarks they believed to be nuanced. At one point, my father inquired if she could speak English at home. She was asked if she knew how to operate a dishwasher by my aunt. During it all, Ling Ling said nothing. It did matter even though she told me it didn't. It has accumulated to this point. They were angry now. They were afraid now, since I had always been the one who kept quiet. The person who volunteered without being asked. The person who remained silent. No longer. The morning following my email send. Removing them from the company? I've been anticipating a visitor to my flat. However, nobody did. The silence caught me off guard. No messages, no calls. There was a spooky silence as if the entire family had gone underground, getting back together. However, they emerged with a vengeance by noon. This time, the group email came from Dad's personal address rather than the chat room. Subject line, your decisions have an impact. Stepped in when the drama broke out along with Mom, Rachel, Nathan, and 2 of our uncles who weren't involved in the business, but always caused a lot of noise. It sounded like a well-planned assault, like they've been writing it together at the dinner table. Guilt, denial, and passive aggression are all mixed together. I was accused of manipulation, told I would embarrass the family, and denied an invitation to Dad's part. Mom had a longer part. She discussed making sacrifices, how they left everything behind in Shanghai to raise their kids in an environment full of opportunities, how my identity and roots were being sacrificed for someone who doesn't even share our values. Then, in the same breath, she wrote that she was praying for me and hoped I'd remember where I came from. I noticed Rachel's name on the CC list, but she didn't write anything. That was all I needed to know. They made it clear that I had overstepped, that I had no right to touch family property. I knew they believed they were being strategic, even though the startup funds and the LLC paperwork were in my name. Play the victim. Paint me as the one who turned cold. Twist the knife. While smiling politely, I ignored the email and headed to the office. I built the company from scratch. I did freelance web development in college, then slowly scaled into real estate tech. They only got involved when they saw money coming in. I offered them a stake as a gesture, thinking maybe it would bring us closer. It didn't. It just gave them another reason to use me. 2 hours later, I got a call from my assistant. She said someone named Thomas Lee was waiting in the lobby and refusing to leave my dad. He never visited the office before. Not once. Not when we signed our first deal. Not when I expanded into 3 states. But now he was standing downstairs demanding to see me. I told her to let him up. He walked in like it was his boardroom. Didn't even acknowledge my staff and sat down without asking. He didn't waste time. "You've lost it," he said. "Rachel's homecoming wasn't about you. You think you're some kind of hero because you pay the bills. Family isn't business, and business isn't family." I told him if you really believe that he wouldn't have put his name on a company he didn't build. That's when he snapped. Said if I wanted to act like an outsider, I shouldn't expect loyalty from my own blood. I said loyalty doesn't mean obedience. He walked out that same afternoon. I called my lawyer and told him to move forward with the paperwork for removal of every family member from any legal and financial ties to the business. I wasn't just freezing access, now I was deleting it. I thought maybe someone Rachel at least would call. She didn't. Nathan posted a cryptic message on his Instagram story about betrayal and snakes. A few of our extended family unfollowed me when it messaged me asking what Leland had done to me. I didn't even respond. I remembered every little moment they made her feel like she didn't belong. How they smiled at her like she was a tourist in our family. How my mom always asked if she missed her real home. How they mocked her accent when they thought she wasn't listening. She always told me to let it go. Said it wasn't worth it. But I saw how it hurt her. That evening, she came home to find me sitting in silence at the kitchen table, laptop open, email drafts and sent. She looked at me and said, "Don't back down." That was all. No drama, just quiet support. We took a walk later past all these houses glowing warm with people inside. Families having dinner, laughing, watching TV. I realized something during that walk. I didn't miss them. I missed the idea of them. The version of my family I used to wish existed. And I finally understood something I'd been trying to ignore my whole life. They only wanted me around when I was useful. Now that I was standing up for myself, I wasn't just unwelcome, I was dangerous. But I was done being useful. I was done being polite. And I was all in. The story had spread throughout the entire family by the end of that week. My existence was suddenly remembered by people I hadn't spoken to in years. Additionally, Linda left a 5-minute voicemail in which she described how I was destroying the family. On Facebook, one of my cousins, who was still living in our hometown, made a vague tirade about entitled people who believe that money is more important than family. Other relatives gave it a few likes. They were frantically attempting to manipulate the story to make it appear as though I was unstable and had gone rogue. I was being manipulated by that lying, which was separating me from my heritage. Some even implied that she might be merely pursuing my money, as if they hadn't subsisted on it for years. When Mom texted me to say I was humiliating her in front of the entire community, I knew things were getting out of hand. Shame was a powerful word. It implied that she felt publicly humiliated in addition to being upset. However, none of them ever inquired as to why. They didn't inquire as to why I interrupted them, why I left, why I stopped acting as though they were unwilling to listen. They wanted me to crawl back quietly and apologize. They preferred the me that remained silent during dinner while they made fun of others, such as by lying and then laughed about it. I was no longer that person. When Rachel invited everyone but me to a second dinner, the tension finally broke out. One more, smaller this time. She said in a text message that somehow reached me via a cousin, "Just siblings and close family." She was careful to explain that it was to set the record straight, remove me from the room, and clear the air. By now, I had sent our lawyer the message. The paperwork was nearly finished. My attorney had already submitted a request for the business structure to be reclassified. Each name was associated with the initial contract. Dad. Even Mom's silent shares were being taken away, Nathan. Only one more document remained. A declaration nullifying any partnership rights in the past. There was no turning back once it was filed, he said. Before I signed it, Lila asked if I was certain. Yes, I replied. The speed of their retaliation shocked me the most. They went directly to the longtime family friend who had introduced me to my first client years prior, a man named Mark with whom I had always maintained a cordial rapport. They made an effort to win him over to their cause. He didn't. They don't realize you don't tell them anything anymore, he wrote in a message to me. That was the reality. I didn't. However, the animosity was brewing. They began accusing me of betraying my country. To everyone else, but not to my face. As if defending lying was betrayal, Nathan told a mutual friend that I had turned against my own blood for a woman, as though setting limits amounted to rebellion. Then one evening, Mom unexpectedly dropped by my flat. She knocked while standing outside the door. I didn't open it. I thought I would never hear her say those things when she called through the door. That they no longer recognized me, that I had disgraced them, and that I was picking a stranger over my parents. Then she said it. Perhaps we no longer have a son if this is who you are now? The door was not opened by me. I simply listened while standing on the opposite side. Eventually, she departed. I sat down with Lila that evening and told her everything. I let go of every memory and every small moment. I laughed off every insult. They always meant well, I told myself. She made no attempt to fix it. She simply remained. That night, I also came to another realization. They had always given me the impression that I could be severed with a single choice. One disagreement, one option, and they wouldn't like me. I therefore made that decision for them. After a week, my mother stood outside my door and declared that I was no longer her son. Perhaps at last there would be silence. I had made up my mind, and they had said their piece. We were finished. However, I was mistaken. I was organizing a weekend trip to Carmel with Lila. Something subtle so you can take a moment to relax. It had been 2 days since I last checked my emails, just attempting to unplug. However, I discovered a notice from the state business registry when I opened my inbox on Monday morning. I was the target of a fraud complaint. I initially believed it to be a scam, but I was mistaken. According to the complaint, I unlawfully kicked partners out of a joint venture without their permission. I didn't have to guess that it was signed anonymously. They were attempting to legally restrain me, reduce the pace, bring me to court perhaps. I forwarded it directly to my attorney, who verified my suspicions. Although there was no actual legal basis for the complaint, it might cause weeks or even months of delay in the restructuring. Leland received a message on Instagram that same day from an unfamiliar user. The lengthy paragraph was obviously written by a family member. It was too familiar a language, too pointed. It claimed that she had destroyed a family, that she ought to feel guilty for separating me from the people who raised and fed me. It warned her to get out of my way before more harm was done. There were pictures of Rachel and Nathan in the followers list, but the account was private and had no name. The line was that. I never imagined that they would target her specifically, not in that manner, not anonymous and not cowardly. Once she read the message, I deleted it without saying anything. I could see, though, that it shook her. I took a car to Nathan's house that evening. Since the beginning of this, I had not seen him in person. I did not make a call. I simply arrived. He answered the door with the arrogant look he always had when he believed he was in control. I inquired as to whether he was aware of the message that was sent to Lily. At first, he remained silent, simply grinned while leaning against the doorframe. Then he said, "Well, perhaps no one would feel the need to reach out if you weren't so dramatic." I chuckled because it validated everything, not because it was amusing. I instructed him to inform the family that this would be the final instance. I would ensure that every skeleton in their closets was exposed to the IRS, the bank, and anybody else who cared to look if they pursued her once more. That was the last time he smiled. Before he could say another word, I walked away. Rachel sent me a lengthy message the following morning. She had never contacted her directly before. She said I'd gone too far, that no matter how badly they acted, it didn't give me the right to tear everything down. She said family meant forgiveness, even when it was hard. I almost replied. But then she ended the message with this: "Mom and Dad said they're done with you. You can still fix this, but you need to fix it now." That was it. No apology, no recognition of what they've done, just more pressure, more silence about what really mattered. And I finally understood they weren't mad because I hurt them. They were mad because I stopped letting them hurt me. They thought I was still the quiet one, the one who stayed late to help clean up after parties. I was barely acknowledged as the one who paid the bills. No one talked about the one who forgave everything. They never expected me to fight back, to walk away, to win. But I had. And they were furious. 3 weeks after Rachel's message, everything felt ugly. Still, no calls, no emails, no messages from unknown numbers. I should have felt relieved. Instead, it felt like that pause before a storm hits. I kept waiting for something. Then it came. It started with a letter, not an email. A real letter was left in my office mailbox in a cream-colored envelope. No address for return, my dad gave it to me. It wasn't long, no excuses, no confessions, just a declaration. You are no longer a member of this family in our eyes. Never get in touch with us again. Don't come. You've already decided. It wasn't unexpected. Just seeing it in writing was startling. But then the unexpected turn of events occurred. Years ago, we co-invested in another joint property, and I discovered that they had sold their shares. An Oakland home. Without even informing me, they quietly sold it. Additionally, they managed to close the deal by using an old document with a fake digital signature. Without my consent. The buyer's title company pointed it out, but they assumed I wouldn't notice. Before they completed the escrow release, they contacted me to verify my identity. That's how I learned. A legal assistant called me and asked if I had intended to approve the money transfer. The final authorization had my name on it, but I hadn't signed it. My attorney took over right away. An investigation into fraud was launched. The transaction was halted. I used a formal legal notice to confront them. For the first time in weeks, I made contact. I didn't even receive a reply. Nothing but quiet. That night, I told Lightning everything. She only asked me one question, which surprised me because I thought she would be afraid. Do you still think they will change in the future? In actuality, I didn't. A few days later, I received a totally unexpected message. Mark, Rachel's ex-boyfriend. We hadn't communicated for more than a year. He asked if I had time for coffee when he unexpectedly called. I was curious enough to say yes despite my suspicions. He informed me that long before the dinner incident, the entire family had been plotting to force me out of the company for months. Nathan had apparently been sowing seeds behind the scenes by claiming that I was too emotional and unstable for the older family members. Not good for business. They were trying to figure out how to get rid of me without getting into trouble with the law. The message for dinner. That was no impulsive outburst. It was the initial blow. Mark claimed that after realizing how far they were prepared to go, he felt bad about keeping the information to himself. There was nothing for him to gain by telling me. Actually, he probably experienced more drama as a result. However, I told him it made too much sense and thanked him. After I left, they didn't suddenly turn against me. That night, they had been preparing the turn. I gave up something, not in a defeated, resentful manner. It was more akin to acceptance, a sort of release of emotion. I had put in more effort than I ought to have, greater than they ever merited. What it had always been, I now saw, conditional love encased in duty. I never answered the letter. The silence went unanswered by me. I just pulled off the last of the ties. The company formally stopped using the name Grant. I put my own name in its place, only mine. Legacy is over. No more ties to family, only the company I founded. And a woman at my side who has never asked me to be someone I'm not. When they called me a traitor, they failed to remember one important fact about traitors. Only when they have something to betray do they pose a threat. And I no longer did. It was 2 months later. No noise, no contact. Everything simply stopped once the fraud report was closed in my favor, and I regained control of the property. Even though I should have felt triumphant, I didn't. When you're competing against your own family, winning doesn't feel like anything. I was not anticipating an apology, not that I was hoping for one. When my mother came to my door and informed me that they no longer had a son, I had put the prospect of a reconciliation in the past. It feels like a splinter lodged in my head. More than I'd like to admit, I repeated those words. Then the letter arrived. It was handwritten in Mom's meticulous script as if she still valued looks. No initial apology. Nothing is admitted. Just, we want to stop fighting. They miss me, she said, claimed to be aware that they had gone too far, that in a few days Rachel would return from Boston. They also wanted to sit down and simply converse. Another item, a photograph, was concealed within the envelope. It was one of the few times we all looked happy together. Dad laughing and grilling Rachel, Nathan holding up a beer, and me younger grinning and foolishly holding a bowl of salad. I looked at it for a while, then Nathan sent me a text. It's enough. They're growing older. Give it up. As simple as that. No. Don't ask how I was okay, just more pressure under the guise of worry. He did not even admit their actions. The falsified records and the intimidation to lie. The fact that they made an effort to keep me out of my own affairs. It seemed as though if I just agreed to eat dinner with them once more, everything would be resolved. Rachel then added her voice as well. She was always the peacekeeper, the diplomatic one. She messaged, I know it's hard, but don't let pride win. They're still your parents. You owe it to them to sit down. Oh, that word again. I read her message 3 times. Then I left it unread that night. Lila and I didn't talk much. We had a bottle of wine and sat on the balcony. She brought the same kind that evening. At first, they declined to meet her. I filled her in on the letter, the messages, and the picture. She simply listened. She finally made a statement. It's been impossible for me to shake. You will always be perceived by them as the one who should bear the burden. They still desire peace, but they want you to bring it about. She was correct. An olive branch was not what this was. I expected to press this button, which was a reset button. I was also worn out. I'm sick of taking the brunt of the harm every time. I'm sick of justifying actions for people who never once stopped to consider the consequences of their actions. I'm fed up with trying to find a family that never existed. 1,000 times over, they could apologize. It wouldn't alter their perception of Lily, their use of money, loyalty, and silence as weapons, or the fact that they chose control over love when given the option. I sat with it then. The text, the picture, the letter. I also didn't respond. Not just yet. Because this is the reality. They didn't simply sabotage their opportunity. They set it on fire. However, retaliation is no longer the focus. It has to do with peace. I'm at peace, and perhaps that entails entering that dinner and voicing your opinions. Or perhaps it entails never responding again. Ignore it or let it haunt you. I'm not sure yet. However, I do know that I already have the update, so for the first time in my life, I don't need them to pick me. I never thought I'd be writing this. The letter was sent 3 weeks ago. I simply left everything unanswered, never responded, and never blocked them. I had lost my anger. I had just finished. I believed I was anyway. Then something happened last Friday that left me speechless. My mother arrived at my workplace. She arrived by herself. No text message in advance, no phone call. When I received the message, I simply walked in and asked the receptionist if she could talk to me. I nearly declined. However, my curiosity overcame me. She had 10 minutes, I told her. In some way, she appeared older and exhausted. It struck me that we were both growing older quickly after I hadn't seen her face in months. I poured her a glass of water in the meeting room, but she sat across from me and didn't touch it. She didn't plead. She didn't cry. Your father is ill, she said. Not only the chill, a few weeks ago we learned. He wanted you to be unaware of it. I remained silent. My mind was racing, but it wasn't clear what I was thinking. It was prostate cancer, she informed me, that he had begun treatment, and that they discovered it late. However, it was hostile, that the doctors were concerned but hadn't said much yet. Then she added another statement. He wishes to speak with you. Why didn't he come himself, I asked her. He's been different lately, she said. Although he doesn't express it aloud, he feels a great deal of regret for having been viewing old pictures of me. That since everything fell apart, he hasn't touched the family business documents. I was at a loss for words. I wasn't emotionless. However, I also didn't experience the emotions I had anticipated. Not a torrent of pardon. Not even anger. Just misunderstanding. Before leaving, she slipped a tiny envelope across the table. Inside was a note from him, handwritten, I don't want to waste my remaining time acting like you're not my son. I was messed up by that line. I took the letter home with me, showed Lily. For a long time, we sat in silence, simply processing. She made no attempt to shoo me away. She did, however, say one thing. You know nothing about them. But perhaps this is the resolution you're looking for. Story 2. We won't be at your wedding. We're occupied. On a sticky note, my dad scribbled it. In order to donate it, I destroyed it, then ripped up their $5,200 rent agreement, disconnected my account from their utilities, and gave me the title to their automobile. We won't be at your wedding. We're occupied. Instead of texting or calling, my dad scribbled it on a sticky note. A bright yellow sticky note that looked like a grocery list was affixed to my refrigerator, smug and crooked. I held the object as if it were evidence of something I should have known all along. Perhaps I did. Perhaps I had been aware of it for years and had simply chosen not to acknowledge it. Those 8 words are still being read. A battle could never cut me as cleanly as those 8 sentences. It was similar to learning that on paper you were never the kid we desired. I can still clearly recall the rest. I snatched the message and tore it into ribbons after tearing it once again. Then I picked up the folder containing the $5,200 rent agreement I had arranged on their behalf. A bargain that allowed them to reside in a 3-bedroom apartment for half of its actual value. I destroyed that document, tore up the lease, and disconnected my account from all of the bills, gas, water, and electricity. They had been too arrogant to express gratitude for each silent debt they said I didn't owe them. I took the automobile after that. The Mazda CX-5 from 2008. 2 years ago, I got them something to assist them move about. Since their credit was terrible, they registered under my name. I signed the title, drove it to the nearby shelter, and gave it to a nonprofit that provides transportation for unmarried mothers to doctor's visits. I had my hair done the same evening. That ought to have been it. However, the problem with folks like them is that they never leave you alone. When you've had enough, they use you as the scapegoat for their failure and make you the antagonist of the tale they crafted. And for years, I allowed them to play the part of the financial crutch, the obedient idiot, and the quiet assistant. Up until that note, something about that sticky note bothered me, or perhaps it awakened the part of me that still had a backbone. This is the account of what transpired next. This wasn't always me. On the first ring, I used to answer their calls. I used to fill up the gas tank before they realized it was low, and I would Venmo my mom $150 for groceries every other week. Used to pay the Netflix subscription fee. The parking tickets my sister accrued and lied about, and the Spotify family plan, they owed me more than $12,000 at one point. I didn't mention it. Why would I? The good son was me, the trustworthy one. Oliver always manages to get things done. We don't worry about him, they would remark. I took care of all the worrying so they didn't have to. When Dad lost his job 2 years ago, it all began. Too many complaints from clients led to a forced layoff, which he referred to as early retirement. Mom referred to it as a boon. She added, "Now we get to spend more time together." Bills increased as time went on, and more bills led to more texts saying things like, "Hey, we're a little short this month. Is there any chance you could pay the heating bill? This winter is cruel. Your sister's card has some problems. Would you mind lending us your backup?" It didn't stop. I had arranged a $5 $200 rent agreement that was meant to keep them afloat. My landlady provided the funding. One of my clients owed me a favor. They still want more, though. Claire, my sister, moved back home while she recovered. 14 months have passed since then. She went to Max with her lover. He played FIFA and vaped at the same time. In my former chamber, they slept. Said that it was sentimental. When I first saw them in bed, I chuckled. I still have posters from my early years on the walls. My spirit seems to have been colonized. Then things began to vanish. It was little at first. For Dad's birthday, I placed a $100 Amazon gift card on the dining table. Then, from the joint emergency account I had created to assist them, $300 disappeared. Gently, I asked once. Dad became enraged. "Oliver, we're not thieves. Don't behave as though you have the authority to police us because of your money." I let it fall, but I began to listen. I came upon the Facebook post at that point. Claire was the one. She had posted a selfie from a dining establishment. Not just any eatery. Germain. She used to call the fancy French restaurant stupid expensive. "My baby always spoils me" is the caption. Use the hashtag date night. Real guys pay for hashtags. In the shot's backdrop, somewhat blurred. My mother was seated at the adjacent table, clutching a wine glass and laughing. I felt sick to my stomach. Using a fake email I created for my dad years ago to handle internet reservations, I do a reverse search of the reservation list. The $480 meal for the visitors was charged to the same card I used to cover their rent. Though I wasn't yet ready, I printed the receipt. I let it to continue because I wanted to know how deep it went. Claire inquired if I could assist her with her financial problem the next week. She said that an abusive ex had created phony accounts in her name, ruining her credit score. After giving her a sympathetic nod, I used a contact at a lending company to do a light check on her background. No deception. Don't use phony accounts. Purchase now, pay later debts only. All for concert tickets and high-end skincare. All in her name. I didn't go up against her, not quite yet. The worst part comes next. The shame. A humorous video was shared by Dad on the family WhatsApp group. Me carrying a bag of goods as I leave a supermarket. He put a sticker that read, "Our errand boy," after zooming in. "Guess who's getting supper again," he captioned it. "Regards, Wallet." Lydia sent a weeping, laughing emoji and everyone laughed. "I'm glad someone remembers their role in the family," Uncle Paul wrote. Mom remained silent. Claire. "Tell him to grab oat milk too," she said. "I'm leaving." I didn't answer. I simply saved everything. Took a screen grab of the group conversation. The thread was exported. The video was uploaded. It was archived. A week later, the last straw. I received a notice. A new utility account had been opened in my name. Their flat is at the same address. However, my card has just been unlinked. I gave the supplier a call. They claimed that a stored copy of my ID had been used to reactivate the account online. I looked through Dad's old iPad's internet history. My email and password autofill were the reason I was there the next time. They were regularly and shamelessly taking from me digitally. I recognized then that they didn't consider me a member of their family. After every withdrawal, they viewed me as an ATM that says, I love you. I came over for what was meant to be a peaceful supper in the last moments before the explosion. Mom sat watching TV while singing to herself while preparing soup. Max and Claire had a TikTok video playing loudly. There was an envelope on the counter. It included a single sticky note with my name on it. We won't be at your wedding. We're occupied. No justification. No background. Just one more act of pettiness from them. I raised my head. Dad didn't recoil. I assumed you would prefer it in writing, he said while enjoying a drink. Claire chuckled. That weekend we're heading to the Algarve. Bro priorities. That was it. The switch flipped at that very time. I grinned, went out in silence, and then set fire to all the bridges they believed I would never venture to cross. They were unaware of my arrival. The invitation to supper had been sent out. Only family. However, the communication had already been intercepted by me. Mom submitted it to the old group thread by mistake. She didn't realize I was still in that one. I saw the guest list, the time, and the date. It was referred to as a celebration of us. In other words, everyone but me. The same establishment where my credit card was burnt through the last time was the scene on Saturday. Private space. Menu that was pre-ordered. Arrival champagne. I reserved the next table after using a fictitious identity to RSVP. Undermined. It was supposed to be my final ambush, but it wasn't the first. I brought up Claire's former partner. Theo is his name. The one she cursed. Cheated on her, attacked her, ruined her life. He was tall, quiet, and not at all like what she had said. I sent him images and audio data from her own evidence folders on her hard disk. He didn't inquire as to why. Tell me where and when we met, he stated simply. Half an hour prior to supper. I gave him copies of the audio recordings, printouts, and texts she had fabricated about him. He had something with him. A draft of a restraining order surprised me. He didn't file. She had frightened him. The opposite is not true. He nodded once and placed the papers in a black folder. I said, let's break their twisted game. We're being stopped by the host. My name is on the reservation next door, I answered with a smile, presenting her with my ID. I'm going to join the family. Together we went inside. The wine glass my mother was holding froze in midair. Claire let her phone fall. He simply blinked Dad like if someone had struck him with a cerebral power failure. He got up too soon and said, Oliver. I responded, this timing is ideal. We appreciate you securing a seat. I took a chair out. Theo took a seat next to me. The flash drive fell on the table. I said, let's talk about family. I began by watching the video. I projected it onto the TV screen in the restaurant. Claire's voice, which she never imagined I would uncover, was pieced together from her audio files. She said in one footage, I hope Oliver is left at the altar if he ever gets married. In another, traceable but distorted, he isn't related, he provides funds. That's not the same. My mom let out a gasp. My dad hit the table with his fist. Nevertheless, the playback continued. Then the screen grabs appeared. The original text and Claire's revised versions were displayed side by side. She pretended that I'd called her a parasite in one thread, which was changed from a conversation in which I had said, I hope you're okay. Theo opened his folder, laid out her plan, complete with notes, photos, and a timeline she wrote herself titled, If He Leaves Me. First item. Let it leak. False accusation of assault. The second item. He sent his employer screenshots. He is sympathetically destroyed by item number 3. My dad got back up. He yelled, This is disgusting. Where did you purchase this? I gave him a direct look. Your previous laptop, the one you handed her. The drive was never wiped by her. He gave Claire a look. She had a pale complexion. Frozen. I wasn't finished. Let me introduce you to another visitor. From the entrance, I said. Entered. The $200 rental agreement was signed by the landlord, Marta. A clipboard was in her hand. She had printed the fake lease renewal that Dad had filed last month along with the account history. The one with my digital signature still on it. I said I didn't sign this. A few weeks ago, I removed access. She nodded. And yet someone printed it, scanned it, and backdated the file to make it look valid. My mom's wine glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor. I looked at Dad. You forged my signature on a legal document. You owe us everything, he inquired. We gave you a life. I stood up slowly. No. You gave me dead silence, and the kind of damage you have to unlearn in therapy. Then I pulled out the final piece, the sticky note. I scanned it, enlarged it, printed it on a glossy card. We won't be at your wedding, we're occupied. I held it up like a trial exhibit. This is how you RSVP'd. So let me repay the favor. I dumped 3 envelopes on the table inside. Legal notification of utility disconnection card title transfer paperwork. The car now listed under my name. A contribution certificate made in their name. Their automobile presented to a facility that supports abuse sufferers. The room became quiet. Then Theo added quietly, "She framed me. Lied to all of you, and I'm bringing a legal claim tomorrow." Claire finally yelled, "I hate you." She yelled at me. Dad surged toward me. Marta moved ahead of him. She remarked icily, "You're lucky the lease fraud isn't being reported today." I look at the employees. Sorry for the scenario. We are about to depart. However, I leaned in my father's direction before leaving. "Please do me a favor." I said, "Please don't attach your next note to my refrigerator. Adhere it to your own reflection." The consequences were immediate. Theo Claire's ex posted a threat the evening following the meal. Dates, videos, screenshots, everything she had done to him. All of her plans. It became popular in our city within an hour. It arrived at her workplace around noon in the morning. She was without one. She sent me only one message that afternoon. "Everything was completely upended by you." I didn't respond. I sent it to Theo just now. To his court folder who inserted it, Dad went underground. His Facebook account vanished. His LinkedIn account crashed. But not before I informed his former employer about the fraudulent lease through an anonymous tip and supporting paperwork. Marta did. Filed a digital fraud report against him. The inquiry is ongoing, but the police have not yet filed charges. Their apartment's utilities severed in the interim. I pressed the kill switch precisely 72 hours after the altercation. The electricity is off. Turn off the gas. Turn off the internet. It must have been deafeningly quiet. They may do one of two things. Look for new houses. Or at least acknowledge who has been keeping the lights on for the past 5 years. Option 3 was their choice. On Facebook cry. According to my mom's post, my family should forgive rather than destroy. Just because you make errors doesn't mean you cut off your parents. There were differing opinions. A few family members expressed their typical sympathy. "I'm very sorry you're experiencing this." Others didn't. "Did you ever say Oliver wasn't invited to Christmas because you didn't want to deal with his face?" A cousin retorted. There were 340 likes on that remark. In order to begin forgiving after the free rent expires, another was added. "I understand." Within 1 hour, Mom took down the post. It's too late. The entire event had previously been screenshotted and published to my public archive. Yes, I made a whole Google Drive folder and gave it a name after going public. Family is like this on the inside. A video shows a father yelling at a woman half his age at the restaurant. Screenshots of Claire's forged messages side by side. She received frame evidence of $27,000 in payments over 3 years in the form of the sticky note. My dad's words, "You owe us everything," on audio. I refrained from screaming. Didn't plead for pity. I gently let the facts come to light. Nice. Chilly. Unquestionable. After sharing the link on Reddit and Twitter, I anonymously submitted it to Quiet Cutoffs, a local site that supports individuals who avoid toxic relationships. It exploded. I was requested to conduct podcast interviews in a matter of days. It was described as the most surgical family split I've ever seen by a 700K subscriber YouTuber. As soon as the narrative was clear, I refrained from speaking in public. The number of calls on my phone skyrocketed. Dad's voicemail began calmly and then became erratic. "People are turning against us because of you. You have ruined your own reputation. Nobody will love a man who betrays his family." I labeled the one I preserved. The last danger. Claire texted 3 times. "You prevail. I hope your ideal little wedding goes well. I want to file a slander lawsuit against you." She didn't. Why? Because I made a new post 2 days after she threatened me. An image of the car's donation certificate that I returned, framed, displayed on the wall of a Portland women's shelter. Every time I was told that my purpose was to serve, I captioned it. People who genuinely matter are now helped by my name. I was greeted by the shelter and asked if I wanted to volunteer. Yes, I replied. I unlinked every account I had ever had with my family bank on the same day. Cosign is no longer there. Phone service was discontinued. Even the previous HBO Max login was deleted by Apple Family Sharing. Deactivated mid-episode was still used by my dad. I broke all of our financial and digital ties to them, created a Substack, and replaced them with something new. In case they wonder why there are tales of silent scapegoats, invisible children, and courteous exit wounds in just 2 weeks. 3 essay features, 1 syndication deal, and 9,000 subscribers. The second post was called "The Sticky Note That Started a Revolution." I opened with a single line. They said they were busy on my wedding day, so I got busy making sure they'd never attend anything else again. They never made it to the wedding. Of course, they tried a week before the date. I got an envelope in the mail, no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. My mother's inside a printed email thread, one between her and a local pastor she knew from when I was a kid. She was begging him to intervene to help bring her son back to the fold. In her words, "He's being brainwashed by internet strangers. He's lost. We just want to see our boy get married." There was no apology or no mention of what they'd done. Just this fantasy where I was the one who'd gone off script. The pastor didn't answer. That letter was framed by me. In my new home office, I hung it. A plaque with the words "Busy Forever" next to it. It was a straightforward wedding, only 42 people, no blood relations, no drama. My wife wore gold as she walked down the aisle, not white since we made the decision that we would not act as though this were a fairy tale. We dressed like survivors, and it wasn't. In our vows, I didn't say that I would always love her. I vowed to never be quiet around her the way I was with my family, and to love her loudly. To never beg her to get smaller so I can get bigger. Claire's ex-boyfriend Theo was my best man. Yes, we did become true friends. This was how he concluded his speech. Some people have family ties from birth. Others struggle to get inside one. This is the one I pick every day. The cheers were louder than they ought to have been. Perhaps because I had never believed it before. 3 days after the wedding, my father gave me one last chance. There was a voicemail for me. "No." "Hi there, no." "Well done." Just him, breathing heavily. "Then you're making a name for yourself now, but don't forget your last name still comes from me." That was it. His version of a threat, as if legacy was a leash. I uploaded it to my Substack caption. "When the man who abandoned you still thinks he owns your initials." That post went viral. People started tagging me in photos of torn-up sticky notes. One therapist printed the article and hung it in her office. I realized then I hadn't just survived them. I'd written the ending. I never saw Claire again. But I did get a letter from her lawyer. She wanted the car back. The one I donated. Said it was emotionally distressing to lose something symbolic. I mailed back one thing, a USB drive on it. The video of her laughing with Max in my childhood bedroom saying, "Oliver is basically my walking credit card." It's kind of cute. No reply. After that. 6 months later, I opened a new business account. Not a tech startup, not a podcast. A publishing imprint named Sticky Note Press, tagline, "We print stories." The family want first book my own titled, "Do Not Expect Us at Your Wedding." We're occupied. Dedication page to the version of me who stayed silent. He deserved better. The book hit number 3 on small nonfiction charts. I didn't do a book tour, but I did one interview local radio. When they asked me, "Would you ever reconcile?" I smiled and said I did reconcile with the truth. They were never my people. I changed my number the next day. No announcement, no text blast, just silence. I stood at the post office, held the old SIM card over the trash and let it fall. No one even knew it was gone. That's when it hit me. They weren't calling anymore, not because they understood, because they finally realized. I don't respond to ghosts. I live quietly now. New apartment, no shared mailboxes, no shared accounts, no shared pain. My wife and I keep Sunday morning sacred. We drink strong coffee, sit on the balcony, and sometimes when a sticky note flutters off a neighbor's fridge and lands on ours. We both laugh because now when I see those yellow squares, I don't think of family. I think of fire, and how sometimes it's not enough to cut the cord. You have to burn the script. Story 3, we're on vacation. At the family gathering, Dad said, "We're expecting a visit from our lawyer, since I had declined to co-sign a $220,000 loan for my golden child sister's store." I refrained from arguing. They woke up to frozen accounts the following morning after I just nodded and turned away. We're on vacation. Anticipate our lawyer's arrival. Like a scalpel, Dad's voice sliced through the room. Around the table, his icy, unwavering eye was locked on me. Forks stopped, in midair. Discussions ended. Mom pretended not to see Jenna and turned her attention to her meal. With a contented smile on her lips, my sister leaned back. Jenna maintained that opening a boutique would finally allow her to be independent, but I refused to co-sign a $220,000 loan for her next bright endeavor. However, I was aware of the reality. As the family's golden child, Jenna was impervious to wrongdoing. Every credit card maxed out every company that collapsed. The problem is always someone else's. Mine forever. Dad didn't inquire, he made a demand. Michael, just sign it. Family members help one another, not in this manner. I had stated maintaining a steady tone. Quiet. The storm followed. Dad's face flushed. Following everything we've done for you. Done for me. It nearly made me chuckle. I reflected about the bills I paid when Jenna's last business failed, and the mortgage I had paid for their home. The never-ending crises that always appeared to be my issue. I didn't list any of it, though. I simply stood there in silence as Jenna's eyes welled up with tears. It was an instantly recognizable performance. You didn't give a damn about me, you never stood by me. Then, as usual, the silent collaborator said, Mom. Please, Michael, she's your sister. Naturally. While I worked 2 jobs, she was the sibling who partied through college. I paid for the repairs after my sister's automobile was wrecked. While I just gave, the sister took and took and took. I gave them a look. I had spent years attempting to support and please this family. Finally, I caught a glimpse of it. I wasn't considered family by them. I was a wallet, a safety net. Dad's voice rang out when he stood up during the reunion. We're on vacation. Anticipate our lawyer's arrival. It wasn't unexpected. It was only a worn-out play's last act. I didn't argue, though. I didn't stand up for myself. I simply nodded, got up, and left. And when they awoke the following morning, their accounts were frozen. However, that was only the start. I believed that the accounts being frozen would serve as sufficient warning. I was mistaken. At 7:15 a.m., the first call was placed. Dad's phone number. After 10 seconds, I let it ring. One more call, then another. I made myself a cup of coffee after turning off my phone and throwing it on the kitchen counter. I had finished rushing to clean up their mess. My mom's email appeared in the subject line of my work email at 8 a.m. How were you able to... Out of morbid curiosity, I opened it. Please, Michael, there is a miscommunication here. We can resolve this, but your father is unhappy. Give us a call. Please make this right. I always did it that way. Was it not? I didn't respond, so I closed the email. They were desperate by midday. This time it was another email from Jenna. Everything is damaged by you. You are the reason my shop is dead. I'm not even allowed to handle the money. I drank my coffee and grinned. No, Jenna. Like all the previous schemes you came up with while I was taking care of the expenses, your boutique was doomed because it was always a fantasy. However, it continued. Dad texted her at 3 p.m. I'm not sure what you did, but you'll pay the price if you don't take action right away. The family group chat turned into a war by the evening. Michael, please speak to us, Mom. Jen. He is a traitor. I've always been disliked by him. Boy, you've gone too far, Dad. It's family. Family? The meaning of that term was unknown to them. I heard a loud knock on my front door at 7 p.m., 3 firm knocks. I didn't even need to scan the crowd. I was certain it was them. They were standing there when I opened the door. Anger distorted Dad's face. Mom's eyes were already moist from crying, and Jenna looked like she had been dragged here screaming and kicking her mascara ruined. You've overreached yourselves. Dad pushed past me into the living room and yelled, I said, Mom. But she shook her head. Just make this right, Michael. What should be fixed? I lost my temper. I simply quit being used by you. Like a bullet, Jenna's words rang out across the room. Everything was damaged by you. That money was necessary to me. No, I answered in a chilly tone. That money was what you sought. There is a distinction. Michael. We are related? Dad slammed his fist down on my kitchen counter and yelled, This is not how family members treat one another. I chuckled. In fact, I laughed. Family. You sent me here to solve your issues. I'm not family now that I've said no. Jenna screamed, Stop that drama. Your sister is me, a sister of mine who has stolen hundreds. A parent who used me as his own financial account. A mother who speaks simply to make me feel guilty. Family isn't that. Dad's face turned red, then pale. He took a step toward her. I could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath from so close. It's your only chance. I hope you understand the consequences of your actions and unfreeze the accounts. Or what? I leaned closer and whispered, Will you threaten me? You'll take more. Dad. What's left to take my funds? My sanity. No longer. I took out my phone, flipped the screen in their direction, and launched the banking app. The emergency funds, the frozen accounts, Jenna believed she would use. Everything is locked. We can settle this legally if you think I owe you. Isn't that what you threatened? Dad opened his mouth, closed it, and then opened it again. However, nothing was revealed. Jenna's tone faltered. We never cared, as I mentioned. I wasn't finished when I told you. I went to my desk, took out a folder from a drawer. How much have I done for this family, you ask? First, let's talk about the mortgage. I took out a printout. The electric bills, that was me. Internet, groceries, car payments for you, Jenna? All me. Dad's face drained of color. You? You're lying. I tossed down another stack. Printouts of transactions, transfers, screenshots of Jenna's endless requests for a little extra because she was trying so hard. Please, Michael, Mom whispered. I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being the one you call when your lies fall apart. I have my own life, and from now on, that's all I'm going to focus on. I walked to the door, opened it. Get out. Dad's face twisted with anger, but he stopped himself, his fist clenching by his side. He froze, a split-second decision flashing across his eyes. Maybe he remembered that without me, his house of cards crumbled. Maybe he realized that I wasn't bluffing. Please, Michael, we can talk. Mom tried again, but I didn't budge. Get out. They left, slamming the door so hard the picture frame shook. I stood there listening to their voices fading down the hallway. Jenna's sobs. Dad's angry muttering, Mom's helpless whispers. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel free. Not yet, but I would. Because this was just the beginning. The day of the family dinner. I wasn't sure if they would even show up, but I made sure I was ready. I didn't dress up. Just jeans and a black t-shirt. But I had something else prepared. Something they wouldn't see coming. At exactly 6 p.m., there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find them. Dad, Mom, and Jenna standing like a united front. Dad's jaw was clenched so hard I thought his teeth would crack. We're here to sort this out like adults, he grumbled, pushing his way inside without an invitation. Mom followed, wringing her hands, her eyes imploring without a word. Jenna rushed in, last arms crossed, eyes blazing and furious. Sit down, I said, closing the door. They didn't argue. Dad sunk into the armchair like he owned it. Jenna and Mom took the couch. Michael Dad started, his voice attempting to sound cool but breaking below. We are prepared to forget all this if you simply rectify what you done. Reopen the accounts. Help your sister with her store. Let's be a family again. A family, I chuckled. Is that what you call this? The relentless taking the guilt. The manipulation. Stop being dramatic, Jenna said. Everything is being ruined by you. No, Jenna, I'm simply being honest for once. Her gaze expanded. What is the truth, the reality? Every time you weep and run to your father, you conceal yourself behind the lie you tell. I sat down and took out my phone. I was expecting you to say that. So, I was ready. When I tapped the screen, a recording of Jenna's voice can be heard clearly. He is only an ATM. He is irrelevant. I can always hold him accountable. I'll create that for him, or he'll do it himself. Jenna's expression became white. That is. Even Mom's eyes opened, yet she screamed, That's fake! Dad. Quit talking. Switch that off, no, calm and cool, I said. Everything will be heard by you. The next audio I listened was a conversation between Dad and Jenna. Dad just put pressure on him. He constantly feels bad about you. He will sign. He must. We are related. Dad's face flushed. Where did you purchase that? Where has Jenna been in your opinion? So self-assured, so cocky. She had no idea that I kept records, but I did. Jenna's tone faltered. Are you watching me? You're crazy. Crazy, I laughed again. Let's discuss insanity. I retrieved a pile of documents and placed them on the coffee table. Medical bills and credit card debts, repayments for your residence? All in my name. I paid for it. Mom's hand trembled as she stretched out. Please, Michael, please. What act? As though this never occurred. Act as though it's been years since you used me. I leaned in. My voice was harsh yet steady. No. We must confront the reality tonight. Dad's hands were shaking. You're not entitled. Not at all. I rose, looming over them. Dad, let me recall you. I own the house where you reside. My money covers the expenses and my name is on the mortgage. Dad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. I made an effort to assist you. I made an effort to be a decent son. However, you made me your fallback option, your safety net, your punching bag, You're not thankful, I interrupted him before he could finish. Thank you. It's impressive that you said it. I looked across at Jenna. All of your aspirations, all of your small company concepts. My money was used to pay for them, each and every one. Jenna sprang to her feet and stood. All you want to do is destroy me. I've always been disliked by you. No, I've always come to your rescue, Jenna. However, it is no longer the case. The next file I opened. This is the documentation for the vehicle you drive. The one for which I co-signed, you know. Next week, it will be repossessed. What about the house? The automated payments have already been halted. You have 30 days to solve it. Mom's voice broke. Please, Michael. This is something we can resolve. You can't, Mom, because money was never the point of this. The fact that I was never your son is the issue. Your insurance policy was me. Dad? Come on forward. His eyes were filled with anger. Proceed. You can say anything you want. Nothing will change as a result. After hovering, his hand dropped. He stumbled back, wild eyes. You believe you're quite intelligent. Do you believe that you are superior to us? No, I answered steadily and icily. I am nevertheless free. I made my way to the door. I opened it. Leave. They paused. They had nothing to say for once, nothing to ask for. They walked away. Mom is weeping. Jenna's swearing. Dad giving an injured animal's glare, but I heard him growl before the door closed. This is something you'll regret. You believe you can simply leave. You have no idea what family is. Oh, I get precisely what you mean by that. Locking the door, I said. The living room was deserted when I turned back. Their rage is still reverberating. However, something felt off. I no longer bore the burden I had for years. They believed that this was the end of it. They assumed I would return in a shambles. However, they were mistaken. Because I wasn't simply leaving. I was prepared to take my life back. I didn't hold out. I sat down on my laptop and started as soon as the door closed behind them. First, a post on social media. No tale about crying. No cries for pity. Just the harsh, icy reality. Screenshots of receipts for payments. Jenna's messages requesting money. Sound recordings of her phoning me an ATM. Dad also said that I owed them since I was related. This is what family looks like when you're just a safety net, I wrote, as the caption. I made a cup of coffee, pressed post, and watched as the alerts started coming in. Reactions, messages, encouragement, and comments came in more quickly than I anticipated. However, they quickly responded. Mom came first. In 1 hour, her post was up. Family members shouldn't ruin one another. Michael is telling lies. He has always had our backing. Telling lies. I grinned. Press reaction. Helped me. These are the invoices for your home that I paid. The bills I paid off for Jenna. My account was emptied of hundreds of dollars. Should I send her post the voice recordings? 10 minutes later, they vanished. I didn't stop, though. I formally removed my name off their home's mortgage by sending a letter to the bank. I disconnected the utilities that were still in my name. Let them solve it. The automobile I co-signed for Jenna came next. Within 2 days, the one she carried around town like a prize was taken back. She attempted to share an emotional story on Instagram. When you are betrayed by your own relatives. But contrary to her expectations, pity did not pour in. Rather, questions began to be asked. I was not required to respond. They already knew everything from my post. I wasn't finished, though. I set up a comprehensive anonymous interview with a local podcast. I didn't need to name them, but I didn't. The narrative was obvious. A family that thought of me as a walking cash cow. One sister who pretended to be the victim. Parents with manipulative skills. It became a viral episode. All of a sudden, individuals started contacting each other and sharing their own tales. The reaction from my family was expected. They launched an attack. A week later, I received a cease and desist letter from a local attorney accusing me of defamation and damaging the family's image. My lawyer and old friend said, I laughed in a day. Please be aware that any evidence, including bank records, audio recordings, and communications, will be fully disclosed to the public as a consequence of any litigation. Proceed at your own peril. Quiet. Mom made another attempt. One more post. My own son is unrecognizable to me. How could he harm us like this? But enough had been seen. Perhaps check yourself in the mirror, her pal said. And it was only the start. I got an email from the bank a week later. The mortgage's financial criteria have not been met by your household. The foreclosure process will soon start. Jenny never even opened her store. Her Instagram disappeared. Her web store shut down. She made an effort to save her reputation, but I had already destroyed it. Dad's friends turned against him. His haughty reputation was whispered by others. The self-made guy was a complete fabrication, now exposed, and I simply watched it all come crashing down. Messages came flooding in. Support from strangers, clients reaching out, people narrating their personal betrayal stories. I felt less alone in my new flat for the first time. Tidy, keep quiet, mine. Every morning when I drink my coffee, I watch the sun peeking through the shutters. No demands, no shouting, no UFOs. My phone then broke. It was Jenna's message. Are you content now? Our family was ruined by you. Hopefully it was worthwhile. I typed a response while grinning. Joyful, more joyful than before. And this is only the start. I believed I had seen everything 2 weeks after the storm. Then the email arrived. Dad's frantic, meandering message. Please, Michael, your point has been made. The house is about to be lost. Your sister is disintegrating. People no longer even speak to us. Was this what you were hoping for? Put your own family in ruins. Destroy. I chuckled. They had already done it. However, I didn't respond. A notice appeared an hour later. A fresh Facebook post. Once more, Mom is becoming the victim. Family is meant to be forgiving. Despite our greatest efforts, some people just wish to cause harm to others. I rolled my eyes, took a screenshot, and returned to my coffee. I was drawn to the comments, though. Not compassion, not now. Did you not take advantage of him? Why are there so many receipts if he is lying? We were always aware that there was a problem with your family. They were being publicly ripped apart. Jenna then made an effort to defend herself. She produced an emotional video. The voice cracked and the mascara smeared. My life is being destroyed by my brother. He's telling lies. Everyone is being manipulated by him. However, she overlooked something. I continued to record. Below her video, I included a snippet. Her voice was really clear. He is only an ATM. He'll cover the cost. He always does. Her video's comments section descended into hate. She was referred to be a manipulator and a liar. In a few hours, her profile disappeared. Removed. But when I received a call from Dad's own father, Grandpa, it was the last straw. A guy who remained silent even when he witnessed the worst and who never chose sides. I heard the events. Michael, come on over. Let's have a conversation. He wasted no time when I got there. He gave me an envelope, an official document. Grandpa? I've altered the trust, he stated steadily. Their home has never been entirely theirs. It's in my name. It's yours now. Stunned, I gazed at him. They made you feel as though you owed them money, deceived you, and exploited you. I've had enough of watching it. It's over now. My parents' home received a legal notice a week later. They were given 30 days to leave. Mom made a panicked call. You can't do this, Michael. We have nowhere to go. Dad picked up the phone. You've evolved. I no longer recognize you. Is this your family? No, I answered calmly. Family members are meant to help one another. However, all you saw in me was a safety net. That's over now. They made every effort. Texts and calls, even arriving at my house. I didn't respond. They packed things and departed, but I didn't even see it. I stood in front of their deserted home a month later. No laughs, no lights, nothing but quiet. Now my house is clean, painted and renovated. A new beginning. It buzzed on my phone. Jenna sent me another message, but this time it was only 2 words. I apologize for my lack of response. I didn't even crack it open. I left the ashes of that existence behind and went away. My cheeks warm in the sunlight. I was free for the first time. Story 4. My own family did not just support my ex-wife after my divorce. They essentially took her place of mine. They informed me and invited her to Thanksgiving. You performed a few songs as long as you don't say anything. Additionally, avoid making one of your pitiful scenes. Don't worry, I responded. Eating with strangers is preferable to sitting with traitors. I made a single move 5 days later that completely blew everything up. Sobbing, my cousin called me. Everything is disintegrating. Please assist us in fixing it. For that reason, I'm just going to post this here. To be honest, I'm still furious and would like to know whether I'm the only one who finds this crazy. Simply scroll if family drama bores you. You'll likely understand, though, if you've ever felt like your own family put you on mute. Steer clear of trash BC. Really, I don't know whether anyone finds it. The peace has been maintained. For background, I was divorced about 1.5 years ago, which was terrible but not startling. Crew. Opal, my ex. We were together for over 6 years. I won't sit here and blame her for everything. I mean, I can be a little direct. Maybe I overuse the sarcasm, but I'm not really into the whole let's talk about feelings for hours thing. Opal's problem was that she was constantly in need of approval from others. In an attempt to be the nice guy in every circumstance, she would practically twist herself into a pretzel. Marriage is a sign of equality, then, it turns out, that they are not a good fit. In any case, this is the strange part. Most individuals find it difficult when their family is broken up, but they still can't recall who their real biological relatives are. Not my gang, specifically my mom Faith and my cousin Tucker. Opal was taken in by them like if she were their own. Also my Aunt Lorraine. And I don't mean to imply that we're being polite to the children. We don't possess any. I'm the mailman, and she's just behaving like she's still one of them. It's crazy. It was the group chat that caught my attention first. As if I was the only one. Lorraine, my sister Tammy, my mother, and Tucker. All of a sudden, there are Opals. All of them are sending pictures from this pointless pottery night. Additionally, I see Opal's mug before everyone else's. Nobody even inquires about my desire to go. Then I see my own cousin post a selfie with an Opal tag and everyone comments on it like she's the fun aunt, and I think, oh, we're having a pumpkin patch day. My phone is now lit up, but only because I can read all of their texts. I assume that no one is speaking to me in BC. In any case, perhaps they are not only being courteous, perhaps they find it awkward as well. NGL, I started turning off the chat since it was annoying me every time I watched them all interacting with her as if nothing had occurred. Approximately 2 weeks before to Thanksgiving, my mother is calling me. She is speaking in a serious tone as if she were about to inform me that someone has passed away or something. I simply ask, "What's up?" She then goes on to talk about how stressful things had been. Additionally, she wants Thanksgiving to be drama-free. In fact, she says you are welcome, but only provided you don't say anything. And please refrain from pulling one of your pitiful scenes. Since July, I haven't even seen these folks. Which scenes? So why would I be the issue here, I ask. Well, you know how you get, she adds. Arguments are inevitable. Opal only desires tranquility. I chuckle and inquire, so Opal is coming then? She responds by saying that she is obviously family and that she has been a huge help to all of us. How can I get support? My mother becomes very defensive and begins to babble about how Opal has been helping her out around the home and being there for her when she wanted to vent about me not calling enough, among other things. She even goes so far as to say that Opal truly listened as opposed to you. So, I'm just finished now. I'd rather sit with traitors and eat with strangers, I remark. She ends the call. Just ends the call. That's nothing new. Since I was a child, she has slammed the phone down on me when she doesn't want to cope. It's her move. After that, I text Tucker and ask, "Are you serious?" "Don't make it about you," he simply advises. Opal has experienced a great deal, as in, what have I been missing? Have I passed away and nobody informed me? I call my sister Tammy in an attempt to get some genuine answers. The only one who doesn't act as though I don't exist is her. She hardly participates, though, since she's so over it. Look, Opal is just a pleasure to be around, she explains. She assists and bakes. She gives everyone the impression that they are not being overly cautious. You know how Mom is, she says. You clash all the time. She enjoys hearing confirmation that she is correct. You didn't do that. Opal does. Tammy responds, I don't know, when I ask if she thinks I should just roll over. Perhaps just don't come. Give them some peace, like being ill. Regards. So I just kind of IDK existing for the next few days. I keep getting group chat notifications. Opal's making pies. Opal's helping Lorraine with her garden. Opal's teaching my mom how to use her new phone. Like, I'm not even mad at Opal. She's just doing what she always does, which is get everyone on her side by being helpful and sweet and letting everyone dump their problems on her. My family, though, that's another story. I think the reason they side with her is honestly because she's just easy for them. She never calls anyone out. She never pushes back. She'll literally listen to a 2-hour rant about how Tucker's ex stole his air fryer and she'll make him banana bread. Meanwhile, I push back when my mom says something out of line. I tell Tucker to stop whining. I don't pretend everything's fine when it's not. So, yeah, I guess I'm difficult, but at least I'm not fake. So, Thanksgiving comes around and I'm sitting there in my apartment scrolling through my phone, and I get a snap from Lorraine table, all set up right at the center, holding my mom's hand. Everyone's smiling. I see my own spot at the table. Empty, it's not even subtle, I get it now. I'm not family and fine. If they want to pick Opal over me, that's on them. But I'm not just going to take it. I'm not going to sit here and let them act like I don't exist or like I'm some villain in my own life. So I start making a list in my notes app, just writing down every time Opals are home. Helped my family with something that used to be my job. Every time they ask her to do something I used to do, every time my mom lets her handle stuff that's supposed to be family only. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but it feels good to keep track. I'm not about to let them just erase me. I'm not going to be the guy who sits at home every holiday while my ex takes my place. If they want a traitor at their table, they can have her. But they're not getting both of us. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Not sure what my next move is yet, but I'm done being the nice guy. If anyone's got advice, drop it, BK. I'm not going to just sit here and watch my family get played. Not now. Next. It's probably going to get ugly, but TBH and I'm ready for it. One update. So, after that Thanksgiving mess, I started noticing stuff I guess I'd been ignoring. Like stuff that didn't even fully click until I was sitting there scrolling and realizing I'd basically been scrubbed out of my family's life. And Opal got my invite. I mean, I'm not talking about just the holiday. I mean, everything. There's this thing where when you're suddenly the outsider, you start seeing all the little ways you were being replaced for months. I'd get texts from Tucker about random family things, but then I'd see on his stories that they're hanging out at my mom's bringing food, like she's hosting, not visiting. She's got her own mug at my mom's house that's new. She never even drank coffee when we were together. My cousin straight up posted a video of Opal showing Lorraine how to set up some TV thing. Like she lives there, my aunt's got her on speed dial now. It's always Opal, so helpful. Opal's got the best ideas, Opal. This Opal that, like, I'm not even a footnote. I asked Tucker what the deal was with that, and he just says, it's not that deep, man. Opal's simply good at computer stuff. You know mom's hopeless with remotes. Yeah, certainly. But she also never phoned me for aid after the divorce. I suppose I'm not useful anymore. Then there was this incident with the cabin. So my grandma left this home upstate to the family, right? Not only my family, but it's split between myself, Tucker, and Tammy. For years, I was always the one handling the bills and upkeep. Not that nobody said thanks. So I go check the group chat for the cabin after ignoring it for a bit. And it's all Opals arranging a summer getaway. Opal's obtained bids for repairs. Opal is talking about making it more friendly. I click back and find my name's not even in the debate over who gets to utilize the apartment for July. No one even pings me for the vote, even though I co-own it. Dude, what's up with the cabin? I text Tucker. He simply dismisses it. Opal's claims to be assisting. Her plans are more popular with everyone. In any case, you're too busy. When I contacted Tammy about it, she responded, yeah, I tried to say you should be included, but Mom and Lorraine said it's just easier with Opal. You know how it is, she says. Mom claims that scheduling with you is always challenging. Opal simply handles things. Tammy only sighs and responds, I know, but I'm tired of fighting about it. When I remind her that the deed really bears my name, she doesn't even support me, just refuses to deal. I began to inquire around, but nobody really had a direct response. Opal's been such a blessing. Lorraine simply states, she is keeping the family together, and for that you should be thankful. According to my mother, things may be different if you simply showed up more often. When I bring up the fact that you brought my ex to Thanksgiving and instructed me to be silent, she just shifts the topic. Claims that I have to make things about myself all the time. It's really crazy. Since Opal never says no, I understand that she's easy for them. She constantly gets small presents, bakes, and does the whole, oh, let me help you act like she did this with my friends too thing. She consistently made herself the person who everyone save my family wanted to invite. I suppose I simply assumed people would remember who I am, but they like simplicity. Not truthful. Then I saw something that really irritated me. As a result, my mother frequently requested me to assist her with her expenditures, such as online purchases, autopay setup, and so on. I continued to do it for a bit after the divorce, but then she said Opal had everything under control. Tucker has now informed me that Opal has gained access to my mother's accounts. I used to do things like handle passwords in detail. I ask my mother, are you serious? You're now giving your money to my ex? All she says is that Opal is reliable. You are constantly so pessimistic. She gives me a sense of control. That's a terrible idea, I tell her. She simply lashes out at me, says, I can come over and help if I'm really worried, but only if I can be nice for a while. I began making a point of retaining receipts both physically and figuratively after telling her that I'm not playing that game. I have all of the notes and screenshots. Every time Opal calls regarding the cottage, she mentions helping out with family matters. I'm never even informed of the plans she makes with my family. Even Opal's actions don't make me angry. I'm upset with my family for allowing it to occur. Even if I'm not perfect, I never imagined that they would just remove me in order to have someone who would never disagree with them. Lorraine then sends me a direct message asking if I can approve some papers for the cottage. What paperwork? I ask. She gives me this document which reads, "We need your information to help everyone set up new autopay for utilities." I inquire as to why Lorraine seems protective when Opal handles the money. It's true that she's the only one keeping up. You're late all the time. You don't respond. You're too occupied. I genuinely pay my share each year, I say. Nobody once mentioned that it was late. Well, Opal will take care of it, she responds. Just sign now. When I get at her apartment to speak, she lashes out, accuses me of creating drama, and slams the door when I tell her I won't sign anything until I've seen it. After saying, just sign it, Tucker texts me. Quit making things difficult. It seems to be everywhere now. Opal is involved in something that I used to do. Every family gathering, every group chat, every stupid Christmas email. She is present. I'm not. I even asked my mother if I may stop over and discuss the cabin-related matters. Only if you're not going to argue, she says. In any case, Opal is coming over to assist me with my taxes. I simply hung up, that's all. Really, I'm not doing this. I believe that the reason my family treats me this way is because even before Opal, I never cooperated. I've always been the person that speaks his mind, confronts the lads, and doesn't act like everything is okay when it's a mess. Opal. She's the kind of person who will nod, smile, and give you cookies while you disparage the person who really completed the task. My family, therefore, obtains what they desire. It's never awkward when someone doesn't push back. I suppose that's what they value. Just a peaceful, argument-free life. Even if it means feigning my non-existence. As I sit there and watch this whole thing unfold, I realize that I'm going to be cut off from everything if I don't intervene. Financially as well as emotionally. Like the family accounts, the cabin, everything. Opal will simply be allowed to take over. Not taking place, I'll sign anything they ask me to the next time. I'm bringing everything I have with me. Nothing will be signed by me. I'm not going to back down. I refuse to allow them to alter history. Opal thus becomes the protagonist, and I'm simply the irate person who vanished. I've had enough of silence. They're going to get a fight if they want one. Therefore, fasten your seatbelt because I'm going to make it impossible for anyone to ignore you. Opal can be had by my family if they so choose, but they will not receive my portion. No way. Are you prepared for the third round, the second update? Have you ever had the impression that people are talking about you, but you are unable to provide evidence? I am not referring to paranoia. Just these tangential feelings, your family next year, for example. The strange ex-brother? Unless it's for money, no one wants to text. I became aware of the content that was not posted. Not only what did. For example, Tucker often sends me a joke about being the forgotten son, yet he's always with Opal and not me in group photos. Opal is holding a pie in Lorraine's Facebook post about being thankful for new traditions, and it's my grandma's recipe, the one she vowed never to share. Crazy. I thus made the decision to enter via the front entrance without waiting for them to be pleasant. I organized a family gathering, but not literally. I sent texts to every member of the previous group conversation. Opal, who is not there, stated that we must discuss the cabin, the money, and all other matters. Tammy says, if this isn't just another argument, I'll come. Tucker isn't acting like my circus. However, I inform him that it is. Simply put, you'd rather not get your hands filthy? Opal can manage it. Lorraine attempts to delay. No, this is for those who genuinely possess stuff, I say. I'm left unread by her. I inform them that I will be bringing all of my documents. Please show me the receipts. What ideas do you all have for the cabin and the accounts? Tammy arrives, very irritated. Tucker is running late. Lorraine is behaving as though she is in a dental office. Everything is printed out for me. Stacked folders. Not that I'm playing around. I begin by outlining the fundamentals. Look, I say. The cabin is not Opal's. She is not eligible to vote. She is not allowed to transfer funds. I show them the group conversations in which she is planning without my presence. The emails in which she is coordinating with the electricity provider. She's informing folks in the screenshots. I have no interest in the family. Every time I pay my part or am excluded from a decision, I show them. You'll need my signature, I say, if you wish to alter the way things operate. And until I'm respected, I won't sign anything. You're overreacting, yells Lorraine. Is just assisting since you're never present. You treat me more like a problem than a person, so I tell her I'm not around. According to Tucker, Opal makes things simpler, but no one wants a battle. Easier for whom, I ask. It's simpler for those who choose to act as though I don't exist. And for once, Tammy is on my side. Yeah, this is getting strange, she says. Opal is in charge of everything, but why? Because she cares, Lorraine says. All you do is complicate everything. We get into a fight, the voices are raised, there is no retreating. This is our family, not Opal's, Tammy exclaims, slapping her fist on the table. This is going too far. Lorraine pushes back her chair and gets to her feet, claims she isn't coping, slams the door. Tucker makes an attempt to go. He is blocked by me. Say you're not going to bail. Don't grab me, he says, pushing me. I can't solve your problems. You want to be an adult, I tell him. Then pretend that it's hot. Like very sloppy. I don't mince words. I threaten to freeze the account until we resolve the issue if they continue to allow Opal to handle funds. The cabin is co-owned by me. I am protected by the law. And if you believe that I'm kidding, give me a try. Tucker laughs, claims that you wouldn't treat us badly. You've already let me down, I say. What is the difference then? The group conversation with Opal is then displayed as Tammy takes out her phone. Cruz is too irate according to all these communications, so let's just move on without him. I was completely unaware of this one. I didn't want to interfere, but this is getting out of hand, she adds. I glance at Tucker. He simply shrugs. Says, Crew, this is easier. Easy for you, not for me, I say. We're all just shouting now. When Lorraine returns, she threatens, I'll call Grandma's lawyer if you want to make things difficult. Check to see how you like it. Do it, I tell her. I will send all of my possessions. Can we just establish rules? Asks Tammy. Could we simply agree? Does Opal not receive a vote? Tucker gives me a look and asks, Okay, what do you want? Please stop acting like I'm dead. I say, she is your new brother too. It's really awkward. As if nobody were sobbing. However, it's evident that everyone is angry for various reasons. Peace is what Tammy wants. Tucker desires to go. Opal should be in charge, according to Lorraine. I want my life back. Bottom line, I say, I'll take everything to a lawyer if Opal tampers with another account, signs my name, or otherwise attempts to make judgments regarding my stuff. Do you wish to fight? Enough being nice? Tucker declares. All right, after that, we'll simply follow the book. I'm sick of you guys, Tammy says. She walks away, slams the door. Lorraine refuses to look at me as she sits down. You did this, I tell them. You have to live with the fact that you chose her over me. I get to my feet. Tucker makes an attempt to obstruct me. I push him aside, pick up my folder, and leave. I'm angry when I get home, but I'm also strangely at ease. I am aware of my next course of action. I'm not playing a bluff. They want to use money and property to play games. I'll demonstrate to them what happens when you run afoul of someone who truly pays attention to details. It's amazing to see how quickly people change their ways when you're no longer helpful or convenient for them. Opal is what they desire. I won't let her take what is rightfully mine, but they are free to keep her. Never, ever. After I flip the switch, there will be more updates. Keep an eye out. The last update. I therefore gave it 5 days following that chaotic family meeting. I kept thinking that someone would text to try to patch things up or give me the typical guilt trip, but I never got one. The group chats were identical. I'm not in Opal's name everywhere. Me getting tagged in nothing? I guess they thought I'd just give up and fade out so they could keep playing house with my ex running the show, but nah, not taking place. I started with the cabin. I pulled up all the docs, deed bills, the co-owner agreement Grandma typed up back in the day, all that. I double-checked every single payment I made, every signature, every message about repairs. I had it lined up so clean even Tucker couldn't ask. What they didn't realize is you can't just vote a co-owner out and hope they stop asking questions. I called the management office, told them to freeze any new changes, no repairs or bookings. Nothing moves without my sign-off. I told them to provide that in writing to everyone on the file. I sent the family group with the legal notification attached. No warning, no, please. Just, if you want to utilize the cabin, come talk to me, direct. Opal's not on the deed, she doesn't get to say. Oh, and BTW, no more assisting with bills. All payments need to go via the official account, which I now manage. Then I manage the family accounts. I went to the bank and removed my name off anything Opal even touched. I phoned the bank manager, described the scenario, and asked them to flag the accounts for third-party access. They stated they wanted a written request, so I dropped it off the same day. Mom texted me later, furious that her internet banking wasn't working the way Opal put it up. For once, speak to your own son, I said. Not the daughter-in-law of your ex. She ended the call. I emailed Tammy, explained what I was doing and why, and advised her to speak with me if she wanted her portion of the cabin. Neither through Opal nor through Lorraine. She simply replied in writing. To be honest, I understand. I'm also sick of this. In an attempt to debate, Tucker called and said that I was penalizing everyone for not taking sides. You've already chosen, I said. When it comes to money or property, I'm just making sure you can't act as though I'm not present. Lorraine yelled at me over the phone, wondering how I could harm family members. I refused to back down from her attempts to guilt me over Grandma's desires. I was being vindictive, she said. No, I'm just enforcing what's actually legal, I said. The phone was slammed down by her. I had to laugh when I saw her post later that evening about how some people never grow up. Opal tried to call me, first time in months. I let it ring out. She texted, said, "Can we talk? This is hurting people." I didn't respond. She sent another, said, "I'm just trying to help." "Why are you making it so hard?" I blocked her. The fallout was fast. Tucker began sending me messages within 2 days. Initially, I was furious. Then it's just desperate. "The cabin trip is ruined," he said. "Mom is freaking out. Lorraine is blaming everyone. Opal's crying. Nobody knows what to do." He said, "Can you please just fix it?" "Everything is disintegrating. I told him I warned you. You made your choice. I'm not coming to the rescue. I'm just making sure no one erases me out of my own life." Then Tammy called. She said, "Did you really freeze the accounts?" I said, "Yeah, I did." She said, "Honestly, I'm relieved. It's been messed up for months. They just let Opal do whatever because no one wants to deal with Mom and Lorraine." I told her if she wants to do things right, come to me. We'll figure out a system that doesn't involve random people running our stuff. She said she would. That's all I wanted the next weekend. I went for a run pass. My mom's place. Her car was there. Opal's wasn't. Lorraine's car was gone too. I didn't go in, I just kept going. Sometimes you got to let people deal with the mess they made. I'm not fixing it for you. I know people reading this are probably thinking, wow, harsh, but if you let people treat you like you're disposable, they'll do it forever. My family wanted easy. Now they get hard mode. Opal wanted to play replacement. Now she's out of the game. I didn't break any laws. I didn't yell or threaten. I just used the facts and the rights I already had. You want to erase me? All right, but you're not getting my stuff or my silence. Thus, yes, guess I burnt the bridge. But TBH, it was already on fire. I just made sure nobody could walk back over it without asking first. No clue what the next holiday will look like. Don't really care. I got my life back and I'm not sharing it with traitors. If you're in the same spot, don't just sit there and take it. Remind people where the line is and don't be afraid to draw it in permanent marker. That's it for me. Hope somebody gets something out of this, even if it's just the idea that you don't have to let people walk all over you for the sake of family. Sometimes you got to be the villain in their story to finally be the hero in your own. Done. Story 5. Daniel is my name. This is the tale of how at the age of 27 I finally stopped allowing myself to feel like a supporting player in my own family. Amanda, my sister, is 2 years my senior. We were never very close as kids. She was the one who got straight, had the ideal boyfriend, who is now her husband, and was always the golden kid. She never failed to remind everyone of how helpful she was in planning her parents' retirement or birthday celebrations. Me. It was me who was silent. I was private. I worked on my own. Despite our parents' wishes, I chose to attend art school rather than business school. And in some way, that became my family's permanent identity. The striving, sensitive artist, even after I got a steady job and got an apartment of my own. However, until Amanda's wedding, I didn't mind it all that much. Last year, Amanda revealed her engagement during our parents' Christmas dinner, replete with a presentation. I'm not kidding. The whole family appeared to go crazy. All of a sudden, Amanda was this and Amanda that. Just to discuss Amanda's wedding arrangements, my mom began phoning me. Every family communication became a barrage of venue images, bridal shower reports, and countdowns to the wedding. I initially assumed that she was the bride. Give her a chance. I sincerely told her that I was thrilled for her and even complimented her. But gradually, I became aware of things. Amanda, for instance, never invited me to join the wedding celebration. I wasn't very surprised by that. However, some work has been done. Later, I saw pictures of my cousin Tyler, whom she barely sees once a year, standing next to her in a tux and her fiancé's younger brother carrying her veil. There were 10 individuals on each side, which surprised me because I thought it would have been a modest gathering. 10 naturally, I was just invited as a guest. No words. Don't read. Not worth mentioning. I still make an effort not to get upset about it. Perhaps she thought I was preoccupied with work. Perhaps she simply assumed I wouldn't be interested in that sort of stuff. I kept telling myself that over and over. The rehearsal dinner followed. I arrived on schedule. Present in hand, appropriately attired. Amanda hardly gave me a look. At the opposite end of the table, she was giggling with her bridesmaids. And as I approached to greet them, she gave me one of those phony grins that waiters wear throughout the evening when they're irritated. I didn't actually hear from anyone. Not Dad, not Mom, not even my aunt, who frequently asked me whether I'm seeing someone. I experienced a strange sensation in my chest when I walked out, as if I had just seen a film in which everyone but me knew their lines. I remained silent. I simply said my goodbyes and drove quietly home. Nevertheless, I arrived the next day. The event took place at this stunning lakefront location complete with sparkling lights and white roses. I stepped into the reception hall in search of the seating chart wearing my nicest suit and carrying the ridiculously expensive Vitamix that Amanda had put on her register. I sensed it at that moment. That instant. You know when your head attempts to catch up as your stomach kind of falls? Not even written like the others, my name was scrawled in the chart's lower corner. Written by hand. Amanda's place cards for the others were beautifully calligraphed. Mine appeared to be a last-minute addition, and because it was so hardly readable, I had to confirm that it said Daniel. Table 19. One of the ushers escorted me through the main hall out the side door and into a strange side alcove close to the bathrooms after looking at the chart, and then at me when I asked where it was. And a foldable chair appeared. No table 1, no decorations, no other visitors. My name card was pinned to the back of a single white plastic chair. The kitchen entrance where waiters hurried in and out with trays of food was right across from it. I gazed at it, convinced that something must be wrong. Then Amanda's maid of honor passed by, looked again, and remarked, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine back here," she said. She shrugged weakly as if she felt sorry for me, then left before I had a chance to reply. Stunned, I stood there. Every table in the main hall was occupied as I looked around. The best seats were even reserved for our Ohio third cousins. Amanda and her new in-laws were clinking glasses at the head table, and I could see them smiling. She didn't give me a sidelong glance. Being instructed to sit this one out while Amanda entertained guests in the living room made me feel like a 10-year-old once more. I gritted my teeth, went back to the corridor, and walked stealthily over to the cake table. It was close to the dancing floor at the front of the room. I purposefully positioned the Vitamix gift bag in the middle of the table and left without a word. No announcement, no drama. Nothing but quiet. As I went outdoors into the cold evening air, I briefly felt tears prickle the corners of my eyes. I was angry not because I was depressed. I'm angry that I allowed this to occur once more. I had repeatedly reminded myself to be understanding, to extend grace to others, in order to avoid embarrassing situations. I heard my name being called from halfway across the parking lot. When I looked around, I saw Amanda racing across the gravel lot in heels while wearing her bridal gown. In one hand, her bouquet was partly forgotten, and in the other, her hair was a little frizzy. Daniel. She gave another call. More volume. She spoke shakily. I remained still. I simply watched her stand there like a twisted romantic comedy scenario. However, it wasn't the groom who was in the race. A few steps away, she came to a stop. Out of breath. "Where are you heading?" As if that weren't apparent, she inquired. "You seem to have said that rather clearly." I said. Her expression dropped. "Hold on, may we speak?" However, I didn't answer. I simply looked at her, hoping she would say something insightful, something tangible. And it happened as she was about to speak again. I held out my hand just enough to halt her, but not in a furious manner. "No," I said, "not in this place, not in this manner." Amanda blinking perplexed. "Daniel, I'm getting married today." I exhaled a little breath, the kind that's half bewilderment, half laughter. "That's right." And for some reason that implied that I wasn't even worthy of a table. She seemed to notice for the first time that we were standing in the center of the gravel lot in front of the venue as she glanced about. Vehicles were parked in tidy lines. Some of the guests were looking out the windows while music floated from the open doors of the reception hall. She whispered that it wasn't supposed to be that way. Our space ran out. I gave a headshake. "Amanda, I counted 10 persons at each of the 20 tables. Nevertheless, you managed to make room for everyone else, even those you haven't seen in 5 years. A foldable chair beside the bathrooms, however, was acquired by your own brother." Not glancing at me, she struggled with her bouquet. "It isn't what you believe." I arched an eyebrow. "All right then, tell me what it is." A lengthy pause ensued. She didn't respond. I learned all I needed to know from that stillness. She had no justification. Or perhaps she did, but she didn't believe I should be told. At that moment, something inside of me exploded. Not in an obnoxious manner, in a silent, permanent one. Similar to a door behind you clicking shut. "You know," I said in a cool but acerbic tone. "You have always come first in my life, second only to your major announcements, boyfriends, and grades. Every family meal, every birthday, every Christmas. Amanda's story has always been told. Daniel has just arrived. I also never voiced any complaints. Not even when I arrived. I offered assistance. I found your jokes funny. I believe that's what family did, so I let you shine. At last, Amanda looked directly into my eyes. She had glassy eyes. I didn't mean to say this, Daniel. I interrupted her. This was intentional. You remembered me. You undervalued me. You placed me in a location where no one would notice me. I had no one to talk to. I became invisible because of you. What's worse is that I dressed up and brought you a present. Perhaps I'm thinking. Perhaps things would be different this time. Her mouth trembled. I was simply anxious. I assumed you would understand when the planner said we had too many guests. That line is always clear to you. You always understand. I almost laughed again, but there was no humor left. Yeah, that's what you've always counted on, isn't it? She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Please don't do this right now. Everyone's inside. I gestured back toward the venue, then go back inside. Get back to your perfect wedding. Cut the cake. Toss the bouquet. Pretend everything is picture perfect. I didn't mean to hurt you. I know I said. And that's what made it worse. Her shoulders sank. What do you want me to do, Daniel? You want me to apologize in front of everyone. You want me to move someone and give you a better seat. All right, I'll do it. No, I interrupted. What I want is for you to actually value me when there's nothing in it for you. Not out of guilt. Not because someone's watching, just because I'm your brother. And clearly that's asking too much. She opened her mouth again. But I didn't wait. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back, not even when I heard her start to cry, not even when she said my name again. I got in my car, closed the door, and just sat there, hands on the wheel, heart pounding. I didn't start the engine. I just stared out at the venue through the windshield thinking about everything. The years of little slight silent dismissals, jokes at my expense. The way our parents always shrugged it aside, that's simply how Amanda is. The way I always urged myself to suck it up to let it go. But that night, I didn't let it go. I let it sink in. And as I sat there in the driver's seat watching the reception hall lights flicker beneath the trees, I understood something that impacted me more than any of her remarks. If I hadn't gone away, she would have let me sit in that corner all night, alone, unseen. Disposable. That discovery didn't make me angry. It made me chilly, numb. A tap on my window shocked me. I turned expecting Amanda, but it was my mom. Halfway down, I rolled down the window. Softly, as if speaking to a stray puppy that had come too close, she whispered, Daniel? How come you're out here? How does it appear? Not rudely, but not in a kind manner, I answered. She let out a sigh, obviously irritated that I was creating a fuss. Inside, your sister is weeping. You can't simply leave like that. She didn't weep because of me. I said. That was her own doing. You're going overboard. To overreact is the term. Growing up, I had heard it 100 times. Every time Amanda took anything away from me, I became angry or I ventured to point out the unfairness. I gazed at her. Where did she place me? Did you know? Mom blinked. The seats were a little close together. We advised Amanda to limit the number of guests she invited. On a folding chair beside the restroom, you allow your only kid to sit, Mom. It's not really important. Once more there it was. I inhaled deeply. Do you all believe that scraps are okay with me? Do you believe I'll be happy no matter what, that I'll be there forever? Quietly applauding from the sidelines while Amanda takes center stage. She folded her arms. Her day is being ruined by you. No, I said. When Mom determined I wasn't important enough to sit with the rest of the family, she did that. Mom's jaw dropped wide, most likely to criticize my exaggeration. How I had to consider Amanda's emotions. But before she could say anything, I rolled up the window. Only then did I turn on the engine as the vehicle departed the venue. Through the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of Amanda standing just outside the entryway, still crying and wearing her dress. But I didn't feel bad for the first time in years. I was liberated. I didn't immediately return home. That night, I drove for hours, no specific destination in mind. Only me. I feel a peculiar mixture of emotions churning inside me as the engine hums. Relief, grief, anger, and something more that I hadn't experienced in a while. Clarity. I had been telling myself to preserve the peace for so long. To be the rational, the understanding one. The person who avoids causing controversy. But I was miles away from the venue that night, sitting in my car. I came to see that if peace only exists at your expense, it isn't real. It was unexpected to see that my phone had 27 missed calls when I eventually arrived home at approximately 2 in the morning, including 12 from Amanda, 7 from my mother, and 3 from my father. Usually, he left the rest of the emotional things to his mother. My cousin Riley had 2 of them, and Aunt Linda even had 1. I neglected to listen to the voicemails. The texts were not answered by me. I threw my phone on the counter like a piece of garbage after turning it off. Like you, I knew nothing. Like a rock, I slept. My flat was silent the following morning, and my phone was remained off. No speeches, no wedding pictures, and no uncomfortable small chat. Nothing but quiet. And I thought it was fantastic. I prepared a healthy breakfast for myself. I eventually turned my phone back on after taking a lengthy shower. Like a tsunami, the alerts came in. The conversation in the family group had blown up. There are messages flowing in all directions. Amanda. Where have you gone, Daniel? Everyone wants to know what went wrong. It's unbelievable that you simply departed. On my wedding day, you brought me to tears. You should apologize to your sister, Mom. People saw that you made the family feel ashamed. This has to be fixed before today's breakfast. Dad's only message, give your mom a call. Riley's message, however, I paused at that one. I witnessed the event. That was a disaster. That wasn't fair to you. I had never heard anyone in the family say anything like that to me before. It was more intense than I anticipated. I didn't answer, though. I also skipped the post-wedding luncheon. I received a follow-up email from the wedding website that morning. One of those automated messages saying, "Thank you for coming." A cheerful photo of Amanda and her husband standing under fairy lights was plainly pre-written by Amanda. I went to my email settings, hovered over the reply button, and flagged it as spam. I painted and did other things I like all day. Getting coffee while strolling across the city? For once, it was quiet. I didn't have to prepare myself for a guilt trip or a sarcastic comment. I knew it wouldn't last, though. Not with my folks. The true repercussions started that night. Amanda gave a call. I took it up. She said softly, "Nearly practiced. I believe we should speak, Daniel." Do you want to chat? Now, I didn't intend for it to turn out that way. I felt overpowered. The situation became unmanageable. Amanda, you had a year to organize this. Don't make fun of me by being silent because she's overwhelmed. You're still upset, Mom remarked. I'm not angry. I'm done, I said. Once more, she was silent. That's not what you mean. Yes, I do, Amanda, because here's the problem. The chair alone didn't make me leave. The chair was the last straw, so I fled. Every holiday, every family gathering, I wanted to feel like a member of this family at every opportunity. I feel like an extra in your film because of the way you took that. You also made it very apparent last night that I'm not even an extra. I'm not even mentioned in the credits. She attempted the age-old strategy of manipulation. What the heck? Are you simply going to ignore your family because of a chair? No, I responded coolly. For years I've been treated disrespectfully as if I'm disposable and nobody cares. Not you. Not your mother. Dad didn't even pause to suggest that Daniel might not be seated near the restrooms. That's the point of this, I sobbed. Now she spoke a bit more firmly. At my wedding you left. Everyone saw you and made decisions. I said I did the same. I hung up before she could finish speaking. I didn't reply to the group chat that week. Every attempt at family involvement was disregarded by me. Mom texted me once again this time in a lengthy letter about how I was ruining the family, how Amanda was feeling terrible, and how I should be the stronger one. I answered in a single sentence. Request that Amanda give the Vitamix back. My father called me 2 days later. My dad is the type of man who only talks about broken things or dead people. I knew it wouldn't be a cordial check-in when he called. He stated plainly, I don't know what's going on between you and your sister. But this must stop. No, it does not. It must at last be recognized for what it is, I retorted. What is that partiality? Gaslighting. I've been acting like I'm okay for years, being disregarded. He sighed. You've been sensitive all along. I chuckled. No, I have never spoken. It's not the same thing. He failed to understand. I didn't think he would. 3 days later, the real kicker arrived. My mother shared pictures from the wedding on Facebook. Every member of the household was tagged. Everyone is grinning, bringing up the glasses, dancing. However, not a single picture included me. Not even in the background. I gently browsed over them. With caution, not a single one of the more than 120 photos featured me. I felt as though I had never been there before, as if I were cut out. I realized then that this wasn't only an error. They were and always have been this way. Thus, I took the one action they didn't anticipate. I uploaded a picture of myself. It came from the morning following the nuptials. A mural I created years ago with myself standing in front of it, my face in the sun, cradling a coffee. Caption: walking away isn't always dramatic. It's required at times. It received more likes than the whole album of Amanda's wedding. Coworkers, college friends, and even Riley left comments with applauding and heart emoticons. I always wondered why you were never at family stuff. Someone privately messaged me, "Man, you have our admiration." Mom made a statement, but Amanda remained silent. "You're being cruel," she said. I banned her after deleting it. I began severing links on that day, not only on an emotional level, but also on a digital one. I changed my apartment's locks. I no longer went to family get-togethers. I became unavailable. The next family vacation passed without me. They made a call. They sent an SMS. Since I was no longer their background character, I didn't reply. It had been 2 months since I had been completely silent for 2 months. A growing disorder from them. Amanda continued to text at first. Just those phony accommodative texts like, "I hope you're doing okay. Nothing angry. Can we speak soon?" And sometimes, "You are missed." I didn't answer. Then followed Mom's guilt-bombing texts. "What happened to you is unknown to me. Your sister is in pain, and my own fave. Our family is being destroyed by your absence." None of them, however. None of them expressed regret, not once. They weren't so much concerned about the reason I left as they were upset that I left. I learned all I needed to know from it. Without the ongoing emotional burden of attempting to fit in with a family who regarded me like an afterthought, I used that time to concentrate on my work. In fact, I started to feel liberated. A gallery exhibition was something I applied for. I was accepted. I resumed selling items. I began to live once more. Then Amanda made a grave error. It took place around the time of our family's yearly spring fling weekend in the early spring. Mom came up with the corny moniker years ago when we would rent a cabin, overindulge in marshmallows, and spend 3 days acting like a happy family. I clearly didn't go this year. However, Amanda took a different action. On Facebook, she shared an open letter. "Wherever you are, my brother," she wrote as the title. It was lengthy, meandering, self-deprecating, full of emotional manipulation and half-truths. She wrote about how fleeting life is, how she never intended to cause me pain, and how she hoped I would have the capacity to forgive. Up until she said the sentence that left me speechless, that section seemed almost beautiful. Daniel has to realize that weddings are hectic and that individuals are often forgotten. I had assumed he would be more powerful than that. It never occurred to me that he would desert me on the most significant day of my life. Boom, it was there. The shifting of responsibility and narcissism. Under the pretext of recovery, the whole reason I first left was posted publicly for hundreds of people to view. Naturally, the post became quite popular among our friends and extended family. People expressed sorrow in dozens of comments stating things like, "Family is everything. Even though brothers may be so emotional at times, you did your best." Then I was singled out by someone, a college acquaintance of Amanda's who had met her once and could obviously see through her BS. "Didn't you put Daniel on a foldable chair beside the restroom?" he wrote. "LOL, it seems like some important things are being omitted. It was the dam's fissure, Baniknab." All of a sudden, there were additional inquiries. A few distant relatives privately messaged me to inquire about the veracity of her statements. According to one, she even gave the impression that you simply stormed off without warning. Someone later informed me, however, that you weren't even sitting with the family. I saw a chance, but I didn't explicitly answer. I published my own open letter a week later. But not on Facebook. I wrote an entire blog entry with pictures. A dish of mostly consumed cake was resting on a trash can next to the folding chair where I was seated in the first picture, which was beside the restrooms. Just before I left that evening, I had taken a picture of it with my phone. I wrote the narrative after that, the whole tale. I described how at every significant family gathering I had been treated like an afterthought. How Amanda really put me outside the reception area after handwriting my name on a place card. I was informed directly by our maid of honor. "You'll be all right back here," she said. I refrained from venting. I didn't criticize her persona. I simply calmly conveyed the facts. I also sent an image of the wedding registry confirmation which clearly shows timestamps proving that I had given Amanda a $600 Vitamix which she never recognized or returned. I concluded with this. It's never easy to leave your family, but it's more difficult to remain in a place where you're continually made to feel invisible. Amanda's wedding was not ruined by me. When she determined I wasn't worthy of a place at the table, she took that action. Literally. Quietly, I left. She went public. Here's the truth now. Whatever you want to do with it. Many people shared that post. Enough, but not viral. The word got across our social networks. It was supplied by my former art professor. Riley did too. Some of Amanda's own friends even sent encouraging comments such as, "Wow, I never knew." That's terrible. In fact, this clarifies a great deal. Amanda remained silent, but 2 days later, my mother called me angrily. "Posting that online was not your place. Amanda didn't either. She was attempting to contact you," I added. "No, she was attempting to steer the story. I'm done allowing her after I lost it." Then I heard it. My mother's first genuine quiet in years. Not the passive-aggressive kind. The sort of stunt. The type where she may have comprehended for the first time that I would no longer roll over. I didn't end the call, I waited. She concluded by saying, "You embarrassed the family." I chuckled. "No, Mother, I was honest. The two are not the same." I then hung up. I didn't talk to her again for a long time after that. I received an item in the mail 3 weeks later. No return address, no note. Within the Vitamix. Sealed. That alone would have been fulfilling. Kamal, however, was not finished yet. Amanda's little prank turned out to have repercussions. Tessa, the maid of honor who commented on my seat, and one of her bridesmaids was a graphic designer who also worked as a freelancer for a site dedicated to wedding preparation. She apparently used Amanda's wedding as a warning since she had been subtly horrified by the entire wedding turmoil. "How Not to Treat Guests at Your Wedding" is the title of an article. The foldable chair, the location of the restroom, and the "you'll be fine back here" statement were all the same even if she altered the names. The article went viral. Reddit wedding forums and even a BuzzFeed article titled "Top 10 Worst Wedding Seating Disasters" shared it. It wasn't simply that Amanda looked awful. She turned to become a meme. In one of her wedding photos, Amanda is shown laughing at the head table with a visitor obscured in the background. The act of carrying a foldable chair came to represent poor wedding manners. Eventually, she canceled her Facebook account. Riley texted me shortly after that. "Have you read the article? Amanda refuses to leave her home according to her irate mother." Since the world finally saw what I had long known, I chose not to reply. Amanda wasn't a lucky kid. She just didn't anticipate that she would become the object of my pity. I continued to paint. My first solo display was presented by me. Empty chair, a minimalist portrait was the item that received the most attention. Only a stark white folding chair against a background of echo and darkness. I never told anyone about it. People saw it and understood, so I didn't have to. Months later, this was the last text message I received from Amanda. "I had no idea that you felt that way. I apologize. I wish you had informed me earlier." I didn't respond. Some stories are better kept as completed paintings, and some apologies are only spoken when the harm is irreparable. Keep quiet. Complete and still. Story 6, Jason is my name. I've always been the quiet one in the family, and I'm 28. The one who made no fuss, made no noise, and didn't ask for much. I was assigned that position, and I adhered to it for years. Due in part to habit. In part because I believed that they would eventually notice me if I simply kept my head down long enough. See me, really. Not as the one in charge or the one in need of nothing, but as a brother, a son, and a person who was equally important to the others. However, that never took place, and something inside of me finally broke this year on my birthday. It began just like any other family get-together. We do something little on Sunday, my mom casually texted me earlier in the week. She didn't inquire about my desires. No enthusiasm, no reservations for dinner, no plans, just a, "Oh yeah, we'll do something." I had some optimism, but I knew better than to have high expectations. For my younger brother Ryan's 25th birthday 3 weeks prior, they planned a lavish celebration, leased a party bus, played loud music throughout the neighborhood, and even surprised him with a weekend getaway to the mountains. Like the best brother ever. Everyone shared pictures of themselves on Instagram, tagging him with heartfelt messages that said, "I can't imagine my life without this guy." I kept the camera steady when I was requested to film movies, smiled graciously in the group photos, and remained silent when nobody thanked me for paying the upfront catering deposit. I always played that part. The man in the backdrop. Sunday then arrives. Around midday, I arrive to the residence dressed in jeans and a polo shirt. I had at least taken the time to shave and bring over some freshly baked goods from the bakery next to my place, even if it was nothing spectacular. Distracted and talking on the phone, my sister Emma answered the door and walked back inside after hardly stopping to say hello. There was silence in the living room. No decorations, no balloons, not even a banner saying "Happy Birthday." It's just my mom in the kitchen taking one cupcake out of the refrigerator and putting it on a paper plate. There it is, she remarked, smiling wearily, as if she were giving me a unique pleasure. Do you still enjoy vanilla? I gazed intently at the cupcake. Someone had poked a crooked candle into it, and the icing was already slipping off the top. My dad entered from the garage with a card the sort you snatched up at the last minute from a pharmacy. Each of us has already signed it in a distinct handwriting. No message, no note. A printed joke about aging with only a few names written underneath. I remained silent for a while. I didn't believe in myself. I simply stood there and blinked in return. What was this constricted sensation in my throat? It wasn't quite fury. It was terrible, as if I had tried to accept being ignored for years, and I was no longer able to even pretend. My father gave me a shoulder clap. Feel free to wish. Don't anticipate a parade, by the way. You are no longer a child. It was that. I glanced up at him and then at my mother, who seemed to have missed him entirely as she was absorbed in browsing through her phone. There was no sign of my brother, most likely still recuperating after the weekend of his birthday. Emma had vanished up the stairs. I stared down at a cupcake when I was alone myself in the kitchen. Nobody even bothered to adequately illuminate. Without saying anything, I extinguished the candle. I grabbed my suitcase and left through the front door. I was not stopped. Nobody even inquired about my destination. Before I could even move, I got into my car, drove back to my apartment, and stayed in the parking lot for a good 15 minutes. It was more than just the cupcake. This year wasn't the only one. Almost every year. Each time I paid a bill without raising any issues. Offered to assist with the relocation. I looked after nieces and nephews. On holidays, I drove 2 hours without requesting anything. Each time I made myself easier, quieter, and smaller. I believed my family required me to be that way. I eventually checked my phone later that evening after checking into a motel a few cities away. Emma sent one SMS. It said, "Mom is in tears. You're where I spent a lot of time looking at the message." I was wondering what I was meant to feel as I hovered my thumb over the keyboard. Shame. I'm sorry. An urgent desire to return quickly and make things right. Instead, I closed my eyes, switched off my phone, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed the stillness to descend without feeling guilty about it. I got up early in the morning. I didn't have to. I had fallen asleep with that tight sensation in my chest because my body was still wired from the previous night, even though there were no job calls or family texts blowing up my phone just yet. The type of thing that never truly goes away. With time, it just becomes dull. There was silence in the motel room. Sterile bedding and generic beige walls. The air conditioner's hum, sterile. It's somehow cozy but impersonal. No pictures of the family. There were no passive-aggressive remarks coming from a different room. Nothing but quiet. I looked at my phone. Mom's calls were missed. A few from Emma and one from Dad. Ryan did not respond. I wasn't surprised, of course. It's likely that he was unaware of my departure. None of them were answered by me, not quite yet. I required room. It's time to reflect. I wanted to sit with my feelings for once without having to justify them to someone who had already determined that I was overreacting or too sensitive. I went to the hotel cafe at around midday and placed an order for a nice breakfast. I brought my laptop along with toast eggs and coffee that wasn't from a reheated pot. I began looking through my bank and email accounts. Not only was I squandering time, I had a plan. You see, nobody in my family really discussed this. I had quietly established myself as that household's main provider. They were irresponsible not because they were poor. I quietly bailed out my parents more times than I can remember after they made a string of poor investments in their late 50s. I assisted Emma in making up the difference in her tuition when she returned to school. I gave Ryan a few $1,000s to help him start over after he moved out and was unable to pay his rent. At my parents' house, my name appeared on the utilities. I covered half of the mortgage and the monthly internet, but nobody brought up the fact that Dad continued to drive the family car for the majority of the maintenance and during family dinners. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do, so I did it. However, what transpired the previous day caused me to come to a realization. They expected it, not just relied on me. They considered me a wallet, not a person trustworthy and not giving. The worst part is that they didn't even pretend to respect me. I made a list after breakfast. I retrieved every account in which I was identified as the financial backer, co-owner, or payer. Then slowly, methodically, and calmly, I began sending emails and making calls. The auto insurance was canceled. In any case, I had a different policy for my own car. My account was disconnected by the home utilities. I set it to terminate at the conclusion of the billing cycle. Clean breaks, no drama. My mother and I had the same bank account. The one where I had been contributing a helping hand every month was shut down. I informed her via courteous email that I was no longer able to contribute and moved the remaining money back to my personal savings. The family subscriptions that automatically charge my card each month without anyone saying thank you include Netflix, Hulu, and all others. Lost. One-click log out of all devices. By the time I was done, I felt lighter. Not free yet, but lighter. Like I was finally shifting the weight I've been carrying alone for years. I stayed at the hotel for 2 more days. In that time, Emma sent 3 more texts. One said seriously, "Where are you? Mom's freaking out." Another just said, "This is childish." And then finally, you heard them right. That one made me pause, not because it was true, but because it was exactly the problem. I heard them. They couldn't even imagine I'd been hurt first. On the 3rd morning, I finally responded. Just one message. Ask Mom what she did for my birthday. 5 minutes later, Emma replied, "Jason, it's not a competition." I didn't respond. Instead, I drove back to my apartment. I wasn't hiding. I just didn't feel like being the one to show up first. Tail between my legs like I was supposed to apologize for finally drawing a boundary. That weekend, I didn't hear from anyone. But on Monday morning, I got a call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short-clipped. "Jason, we need to talk. I think you're taking this too far. Your mother's really upset. We are related. Call me back." Family. That term used to signify something to me. Now it just sounded like a card they pulled out when things didn't go their way. I didn't call back later that day. I got a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I glanced among the people, I spotted Ryan rucksack draped over one shoulder, looking like he hadn't slept in a day. "Open up, man," he said. "We need to discuss." That was the moment things started changing slowly, uneasily. But sure, I didn't open the door immediately away. I simply stood there peering through the crowds at Ryan like I was looking at a stranger. My younger brother, the golden lad, favorite kid, the person who received the applause. The weekends away, the unexpected gatherings that were really proud of you. Speeches I didn't hear as a child, once we were close. Or I believed that we were, until I understood that I was assisting him in most of our interactions, filling in for him, taking over so he could continue coasting. He had never previously arrived at my home in this manner, unannounced, uninvited, and most definitely not when the situation at home became awkward. "Jason," he repeated, softer this time. "Hurry up." With a sigh, I leaned against the doorframe and opened it slightly. "What are you looking for?" He smiled somewhat sheepishly, as if we were still children, and he had just used a baseball to smash a window. "Take a look." I had no idea it was so nasty. I arched an eyebrow, unsure of what was wrong, that I was paying your rent 3 months ago while everyone else was busy giving you a party bus extravaganza, or that no one could even think to prepare anything more than a cupcake from the grocery store for my birthday. He stood up and shuffled, attempting to look calm. "That was messed up, all right. However, you remained silent." It was so predictable that I nearly laughed, not because it was humorous. Naturally, I didn't. "You know why?" I asked. "Since I grew up in that home. Taught that I was being theatrical if I sought attention. I was being self-centered if I made any requests. And I was instructed to quit making it about me if I ever complained, 'Hey, I feel left out.'" There was no comeback for him. Just scratched the back of his neck and glanced down at his sneakers. "That seems about right, I said, "and you still let it happen." "You have to know whenever you knew." He did not refute it. At last he added, "I didn't think it mattered to you. You seem to be excellent all the time." As if that stuff didn't matter to you. I wasn't prepared for how hard that hit. I was skilled at acting, at ingesting food, at being the one about whom no one was concerned. However, I was worn out. I'm so over being the reliable one, so that the others could afford to collapse. I gestured for him to enter after completely opening the door. I waited as we sat on the couch. Allow the quiet to linger. I hoped he would sense it. He had never before recognized the weight I bore in each of those silences. "What comes next?" Picking at the loose string on his sleeve, he eventually inquired, "Are you ignoring everyone?" I gave a shrug. "Not with malice. I'm tired of being exploited, though." He laughed bitterly. "Will they even notice, do you think?" I answered. "I know they will." "Mom is sobbing already. Do you recall?" He flinched. "She's a complete disaster. Continue claiming that she didn't intend for things to be unjust. It's funny that she just said it now." Ryan glanced up at me and then peered closely. Like a man who recently learned someone he had taken for granted had boundaries he didn't know not to breach, rather than a younger brother to an older one. You want me to do what he inquired? As if I couldn't repair everything. Tell me what you need, however. It was one of his rare moments of humility. Although I understood this wasn't only about me, I still mostly believed it. It concerned the whole house of cards that my parents had constructed with me as the cornerstone, and it was all beginning to tremble now that I had begun to draw out. I told them to be honest, inform them that I left because I was fed up with being treated as though I didn't exist. Inform them that I will no longer be providing financial assistance. Not anymore. Only until the month's end. No more paying for mom's prescription drugs or dad's truck repairs or Emma's lack of tuition. Slowly he nodded. That's finally starting to weigh on me, I added. Don't tell them I'm angry if they ask why. Inform them that I'm finished. He simply nodded quietly as if he had finally understood or was at least making an effort and walked away without saying anything more. I didn't think he would change so quickly. I knew in my heart that something had changed even though I didn't expect any of them to. My mother left me a voicemail later that evening. She didn't shout. Did I not feel guilty? She said quietly. Weary, I didn't intend for it to be that inconsistent, Jason. I pondered. I suppose I assumed you didn't require the same items. And perhaps it was a bad guess. I apologize. Please give us a call or stop by.